And hello, welcome to the Whibs Zone's Member Spotlight. The Whibs Zone is a Discord community geared towards content creators and creative folks in numerous areas of media, be it illustration, writing, voice acting, game development, streaming, YouTube, content creation and entertainment, crafts, and even things like tabletop gaming and fitness. The concept of this community is to share our work, make connections and network, and help each other. With that in mind, I decided to do a monthly member spotlight to showcase members of the Discord in a talk show internet format to talk about the things they're working on, the history behind what they do, and any helpful advice they'd like to share with the viewers. And now it's time to introduce our next guest, which is Dio. Hello. You'd like to unmute yourself, please?
Yes.
Hey.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. Well, it's the it's evening for me, but it must be early morning for you. Yeah.
Well, I am DyotheCarny. I've been on Twitch for way longer than I remembered. I was actually doing the math, and it's oh my god, it's been like 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I've only really been streaming steadily and seriously, especially with crafts, for about a year and a half. So, yeah, I do everything from gaming to crafting and anything in between. So,
yeah, no, I like catching, and when I'm able to, I love catching your streams because I find like crocheting is really relaxing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. So excellent. All right, now I'm gonna start asking you questions. So are you ready?
Yeah. I am ready.
So, how did you get started with crocheting?
So, I actually got started with crochet I'd say about 2 years ago. Maybe a little over 2 years now. A friend of mine before creative was really a thing on Twitch. She was still crocheting on Twitch under like the game tag of whatever it was she was working on.
Oh, I see.
And I just really enjoyed watching her. And she was like, "Hey, if I did a crochet along and taught you guys, is that something you guys would be interested in?" And I was like, "Absolutely, yes," because I had tried to learn in the past and failed miserably. So I did the crochet along with her, and then I just kind of took off from there.
Wow, so way before creative. When did the creative section come about?
I think creative officially became a thing about a year and a half ago, because I didn't start streaming until crafting anything until creative became a thing. Because I had reached out to Twitch to say, "Hey, I know some people are doing this under the is this something that is okay to do?" Because I wanted to do that before I started streaming anything, because at that time I was also streaming on a shared channel with some friends of mine, so it wasn't just my channel that I was going to put at risk by streaming that. So I had reached out to them, and they were like, "Oh, well, good news, we're doing this thing called creative and it's coming soon, so why don't you wait and stay tuned for more details." And then then creative became a thing.
Yeah, I see. Because I remember folks for Domestic Dan, he did food stuff, and he pretty much with a couple of other food folks created the that kind of community.
They kind of paved the way for us.
Yeah, it's really interesting how this a Twitch evolves like that. So there you go, folks. People matter.
Yes.
They do. People power. All right, so you started crocheting with when your friend started showing you how to do it. So, but did you do any craft work beforehand, if the different types of craft?
I definitely have been a crafter for as long as I can remember. It's one of those, my mom has always been really crafty, and that she always found little crafts for us to do together as kids. And so I've kind of just been crafting my whole life. The first time I ever took on a craft on my own was middle school. I used to be really big into rubber stamps and scrapbooking and card making and that kind of thing. And then it kind of evolved into jewelry making, and I've pretty much done everything under the sun with the exception of anything that involves heavy machinery. So I've never done woodworking or anything like that. But yeah, pretty much done it all now.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, scrapbooking and stuff I'd love to do as well. I mean, my big thing was obviously drawing, scribbling away. but I'd like to collect like little like pictures I'd enjoy, you know, from like games and stuff. I would like cut out from the magazines and stick them in a book just for references and stuff. Oh, anyway, yeah, it's great that that kind of thing like spans from childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with streaming, let's see. So you started streaming once the creative tag was introduced. So
Well, before that, I was actually streaming video games.
yes, you mentioned the shared channel, right?
Yeah, what started me streaming originally, I was in a raid group when in Final Fantasy XIV back when the Binding Coil of Bahamut was still a thing.
Oh yeah.
And so I started streaming our raid nights and archiving the footage so that we could go back like over the week and kind of watch and see like where we were doing good, where we were doing poorly, and where we could improve. And it kind of just evolved from there.
So you were streaming like basically to learn first of all for the game you were playing.
Right. And then I got more in. I got more involved in streaming as I started watching other streamers.
Yeah.
And then Pukajutsu had actually asked me to mod for him because I was spending so much time in his stream, and I was like, okay, I guess I really need to get into what the heck goes on behind the scenes, so that I just wanted a better perspective, and my streaming career kind of snowballed from there.
Oh wow. So what was it like setting up your own channel?
It's definitely still, even after all this time, it's still a work in progress. I feel like it's something that's always evolving, but when I first got started, it was no cam, very basic, just me and the game and Twitch, and it was just, you know, there were many days where more often than not I would accidentally leave my mic muted in OBS or whatever software I was using, and it was like you'd have an entire stream of me not speaking, but like you could hear everybody in my Discord or mumble at the time. So yeah, it was tricky to remember like silly things like that.
Oh, so gaming obviously and crocheting are very different beasts. So when you
different.
Yeah, so when you decided to like eventually go over to crafting streaming, I mean now you've got like lots of like cameras, different angles to see you know. But when you first started like crafting, and you know, what was your setup then? What was the challenges of streaming craft?
When I first started, the biggest challenge was how the heck do you get that camera angle facing down correctly? Because before Twitch was ever a thing in my life, I actually was hooked on different craft videos. I was addicted to different crafting videos on YouTube, and I actually had kind of sort of played a little bit with that. But my setup at that time was in an apartment. It was very primitive because my crafting table actually faced a window, and so I had like a really old Logitech with like the little arm that sticks out that hooks onto your monitor.
Yeah.
And I had tied that arm to a piece of ribbon, and then tied that piece of ribbon to like blinds in the window.
Oh wow.
So that I could angle it down at my desk just right. And when I started streaming creative on Twitch, we had moved into a house where that wasn't really possible to do anymore. So like it was that very fine balance of just balancing the C920 on like the lip of my monitor, praying to God that nothing bumped the desk and made it fall. Because heaven forbid I, invest in a tripod or anything. That came later when I figured out that was probably the better way to go.
This is like old school setup, right? You have to like you like war stories almost. Like back in the day, I had to do this.
Yes. It was very primitive.
But that's great though to hear, because a lot of people when they start streaming, they see all those fancy setups by people and they think that that's what they have to do straight away.
Yes.
So it's nice to hear.
It always amuses me how fancy people think my setup is too, because there are definitely days because I have actually 2 rooms that I can stream from. I have my room in the loft that I share with my husband, which is where I do most of my gaming, and then I actually have a craft studio where I've tried to kind of move the creative stuff to, but it kind of still moves back and forth.
Yeah.
And in the creative studio, I actually have like this giant plastic tumbler that my face cam sits on.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell because if the cats are up on the desk, they knock it over and it's like, oh, rip face cam. Okay, there you go. I also have friends that, like, they have the overhead mic set up, and their craft camera is just like Velcro strapped onto that mic boom, so that it can look down. Like, there's nothing fancy about it.
It does the job though.
Yes, it does.
So what if you had like the dream setup, right? What would you envision this dream setup to be? Like, do you have like things that you want to get?
The only other thing that I really want to get or improve upon in my setup is I would ideally like to move all of the monitors and things that are in the loft into my craft studio.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, I would love to have this same setup out here that I have, have this setup in there, because that's the big challenge in the craft studio is there's really not room for all three of my monitors, and I have a 3-monitor setup in the studio or in the loft, so I'm really spoiled, and it's really difficult for me. It's actually harder for me to stream creative with one monitor than it is to stream gaming with one monitor. Because I've got like a chat window, I've got my Discord, I've got like 6 different windows plus my pattern open on screen. And yeah, that would be my ideal setup, is to have that in the studio.
Yeah.
And have a little or have a little bit better lighting out here in the loft. Because that is actually the biggest challenge out here in the loft, is because the lighting is not as good, the colors of like the yarn and stuff don't come across as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that is definitely a challenge some days, especially if I'm working on a commission and I'm like, hey, what do you think of these yarn colors? And then I have to hold them up to my face in like the little face cam, because that's actually better than the camera that's looking down at the desk.
So, like, I've noticed, like, on your streams as well, you have a nice little slideshow, like you have of like all your past crafts and stuff, and another like window with like, you know, what you're working on at the moment. Was this like your own like idea, or did you have inspiration from what you've seen from others?
I definitely borrowed that inspiration from a lot of creative streamers. There are actually a lot of people in creative have a like previous works and then kind of what I'm working on now. And I have found that that's actually been quite useful for me, especially with my previous works, because I've had people message me off screen, say, hey, I saw you made this. Could you make me one? Could I commission you to do that? And I'm like, absolutely, you can.
Actually, that's a good segue, because my next question. So like you just mentioned now commissions, like, so what actually led you to the idea that you could sell the craft that you were making?
It's another one of those that I've watching creative streamers on Twitch. It's like, I could probably do that as well. And then when people started contacting me and saying, hey, I'd really like to commission you to do that, it's like, why don't I just open up an Etsy store? And that kind of butted, you know, or kind of evolved into everything I make. I don't have room to keep it all. I love to make things. I know where to put it. So let's put it up on Etsy and let's get rid of it, give it a good home, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, so that comes with its own set of challenges, right? Like selling physical items that you have to post off, and like there has to be stories about that, right? So is there any like things you learned along the way, or stuff you'd like wish you'd learned?
I've learned that doing business with Europe is impossible.
Oh no.
It's really difficult, because so every country in Europe has the value-added tax system that you have to incorporate into your pricing when you're selling things. And the thing is, they're all different. So like what I sell in the VAT in UK versus the VAT in Germany versus you know, every country in Europe has a different tax, and the laws are really confusing. There used to be a loophole that if you made less than X number of dollars per year, it didn't matter. You were fine. And I knew I would never meet that. Well, last year or the year before that law changed, and now it's like, oh no, if you are selling anything to these countries, you have to charge the VAT, and then you have to turn around and whatever you had charged under that, you had to report and pay back to said country, which means then you have to also like register that you're doing business with people in these countries, and it's just a lot more paperwork. So I had to really make that tough decision of, I can't sell to my friends in Europe. I can send them presents, but I can't sell them anything.
Yeah.
Because it's just the risks of getting caught not doing that outweighed the reward of selling like a $40 doll.
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of frightening.
Yeah. And it's one of those, there are a ton of people out there that are doing it and not even paying attention to it or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's fine for them. It's just not a risk I was willing to take.
No, I understand
especially
that.
once I started looking into it, because the fines are anywhere from $500 to $5,000 depending on the infraction and the number of infractions. And I was like, that's not a risk I'm willing to take because I can't afford that.
Gosh. Oh, hello. No, yeah, gosh, because this is something that you have to learn by yourself, like unless you've been to business school and stuff.
Right, and there's a little bit of mention on it when you go to list things on Etsy.
Oh yeah,
they do kind of say, oh hey, by the way, don't forget if you're selling to these countries, these rules apply. And it's like, oh awesome.
Oh, that's good.
Know what that means. Now I go look it up.
Yeah, that's...
And they kind of take care of that on the digital side, but on the physical item side, it's different because the way the laws are written, I don't really know if that applies to the cost of the item or the retail price of the item. And because that varies, and I think that actually might vary from country to country as well, there's just really no good way to do it.
Oh, blimey. I'll let you go, folks. That's a good thing to take note of.
Yeah, so it's and that's one of the common questions that I get when I've actually had conversations sent to me on Etsy saying, hey, I really like your stuff, why don't you sell in my country? And it's like, well, unfortunately, here's why.
Yeah, I guess things like Brexit will affect it as well when they finally settle what they're doing.
That is very possible. That is actually very possible, and if they drop it, then I can open back up selling to the UK, and that would make me happy.
Yay! Something positive.
I have a lot of friends there, and they're like, I really want to buy stuff, and I'm like, could I just send it to you, and we could just like be friends and say, here, I'm giving you presents. Yeah. He's like, no.
Would affect like things from like Quebec as well, like in Canada. Yeah, because I know I watch a lot of like Critical Role, and there's like competitions and stuff, and then like that part of Canada is like they can't enter the competition, and I'm assuming it's very similar reasons.
Yeah.
Gosh, the world's tricky. The world's tricky.
It really is. It really, really is.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, thank you very much for that.
Sure.
Oh, sweet information. Now, let's see. Could you tell me about your experiences with balancing things like costs of materials and postage? Or you already touched a bit on postages and stuff, but like advice about balancing pricing as well, because with different currencies in mind, if you're able to do that kind of thing, there's also something to take note of. And
it's really difficult for me to balance cost versus like what the retail price should be, because like all of the formulas out there, like there's several different ones out there, but a lot of the crochet ones I've read is, just take the cost of your supplies and multiply that by 3. Well, if a skein of yarn costs $3 and I can get 2 washcloths out of there, that's cost me $1.50. You're saying I should only charge what, $4.50 for my washcloth, which is fine because that seems like a reasonable price for a washcloth, except for it took me 4 hours to crochet it. So I'm not really getting much. I'm not getting anything for my time at that point. I'm just getting back the cost of my supplies. So like when you're talking handmade items, it's very tricky. I have been told by several people that I charge too much. I've been told by several people that I don't charge enough for the dolls that I do sell on Etsy. So what I try to do really is I look and I'd rather look and see kind of what the market is saying. So like I'll go to Etsy and search for things that are similar, and then kind of price based on that a little more so than trying to figure out, okay, my cost of supplies versus my time. Because no matter what I do, if I really, really wanted to charge for my time, like the dolls that I sell on Etsy for $40 would sell for like $150 or something ridiculous, because some of those dolls take upwards of 50 or 60 hours to make. Well, some
Yeah.
of them maybe take me 20 hours to make.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean,
So,
is this? I'm sorry if I butcher your name, mate. Do Dugel.
Dugel.
Oh, nearly. There you go. He says, yeah, he thinks that getting conflicting advice usually means that you're in a good spot. That's what they think.
And what I found is the people that are telling me I don't charge enough are people that are also creators. Or I very few of my friends that aren't creators have told me that, but most of the people that are telling me you don't charge enough are people that are also like crochet artists or whatever. People that are telling me that I charge too much, or people that they don't really understand what goes into, like, how much work goes into something that I'm making.
Yeah.
They just see a stuffed animal and they go, why would I pay $40 for that? Well, because it took me 60 hours to make it, that's why.
You're just tying a bunch of knots.
Hey!
We have a special guest today. An extra one.
That's my husband. Sorry about that.
No. So the community on Etsy, right? It must be a bit different to the community on Twitch. Do you find it's very supportive community? Like, do they help each other out on
the
Etsy?
community on Etsy is so big that it's actually really hard to get noticed unless you are like talking to people that are in your community other places. Like most of the Etsy creators that have reached out to me like to talk about pricing and whatnot are people that I'm also like talking to on Twitch. So it's kind of a good crossover, but like the other crochet artists that are just out there on Etsy that have nothing to do with Twitch or have never like spoken to me outside of Etsy, like they don't know who there's no interaction.
I see. What about like
it's one of those, it's so big, it's really hard to get into a community, really, I found in Etsy.
Oh, I see. So like Twitch is like very different then in that stead, because I find that a lot of people who are on Twitch are very close knit on like on like other platforms like Twitter and stuff. They have always like gathered together in places, social media.
And that's kind of what I have found with the small community that I have managed to find on Etsy. It's the same small community that I'm friends that I'm involved in on Twitch and Twitter and Instagram. Like it's all the people that I'm going and favoriting their stuff on Etsy. It's the same people that I talk to on a daily basis anyway.
So speaking of social media, then, like, how is the growth of social media? Like what we just talked about now, like Twitch and Twitter and that kind of thing. How's it helped with promoting like your work?
It's honestly made it so that I can have this job. To be quite honest, I think without Twitter, without Twitch, without Facebook, even some days, I wouldn't be here. I would be working a 9-to-5 job somewhere in a corporate office somewhere, kind of pulling my hair out, being super bored. And because of social media, I get to do what I do now.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for Twitch, my Etsy store would just be dead. It's so hard to get noticed on Etsy, especially in crochet, because there's just so much out there. Where with Twitch, I can make something, and then that's where most of my traffic comes from.
I see.
So
like, is it literally where in Twitch that you've grown your community, or is it like have you used like other things like Twitter to like because the nature of Twitter as well, you can easily like get things retweeted and stuff. And
I think it's probably a good share of both. A lot of my Twitter interaction stems from my Twitch interactions, but I have noticed that some of the stuff that I put out on Twitter has gotten traction and kind of retweeted and liked by people that I don't even know, which has been really cool to kind of watch. But it's also kind of opened doors for me into other communities that I've really kind of fallen into and kind of fallen in love with. So that's been really fun. Like getting involved in the D&D side of Twitter has really been fun for me.
Yeah, I was surprised also how huge that community is. It's huge. Yes. It truly is. Like when I first started doing Twitch and stuff, it was mainly because of the Final Fantasy 14 community. That's where I started watching But when I started watching like things on like D&D and stuff on Twitch and followed back through other social media from those things, is my gosh, I was so surprised.
It's kind of eye-opening.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I was filled with joy. Because you know, I'm used to like that kind of thing being like very niche, at least in where I come from. Like you have this little small group of people, and they play in the D&Ds in a dark corner somewhere.
It's like, wait, you can't come to the party because why? Because I have a D&D game tonight.
Yeah, it's like that meme like photo with like where there's one side there's like a person partying in a disco club or whatever. And you know what the cool kids do, and then you got this person dressed as Gandalf going, "Ah!" like this is our Saturday night. This is your Saturday night. Yes. Oh yeah, so yeah, Final Fantasy 14. You also mentioned like this is the game you played too. Is that the community from that? Because I've noticed that you've also crocheted like characters from games too.
Yes. I don't even want to say the bulk of my community is the 14 community anymore, but that's where that's where a lot of my community started from. You know, I started out on Twitch watching 14 streamers, and then I became really big. You know, I started modding in Pook's channel, and a lot of his community kind of came over and started following me, and I started, you know, interacting a lot more in other 14 streams and kind of made friends and connections that way. And that's where it's where a lot of my community comes from, actually, is just other 14 streams and friends that I've made there. And that's where I draw a lot of my inspiration for a lot of the stuff that I do now. I've actually been commissioned or done giveaways for people doing their characters in 14, and that's actually been a really fun challenge for me.
Yeah, I mean, crocheting itself, it seems like very delicate work. Like, but I've seen that you be able to do like different shapes and different like. Let me show you the stream. What you've done?
Oh, the White Mage doll.
Yeah, that was very impressive. Wait, let me see. Is this the right one? I think it's the right one. Did it? Yes, good. I did a thing. Yeah, the one on the right, and the left one as well. Like the one on the right, like it's in a bard, isn't it, from 14?
Yes. So the one on the right is actually Pokujutsu used to have he had an artist do his character in 14 as a chibi. And that is actually his character with, I want to say that's the Allegan Bard set and the Garuda bow. So I just took it and made a plushie for him. I think we did that for his 1-year anniversary. And then the picture on the far left was actually a dimensional doll. He stands about not quite a foot tall. And yeah, he was a lot of fun to make.
I see you use like mixed media in here too, like different materials. How is this something you do often? And you like what's like the preferred?
That was the one on the left. That was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. In my brain, I thought, because I'd worked with felt before, and I was not a great seamstress, but decent enough that I could make doll clothes. I was like, oh, it'll be so much easier for me to do the clothes on felt and just crochet the doll. Yeah. Well, after having made that one, it was like, maybe not so much, because I have done dolls since then where I've crocheted the clothing and they actually made up much faster.
Yeah.
Like that doll took me a long time. That was when I really learned how to like sew clothes for real. And that was a challenge that I was not anticipating at all.
Oh gosh.
The sleeves on that robe alone, I probably did and redid like 3 or 4 times before I was finally happy with the way they came out.
Oh. It's really good though. I mean, it looks like you can almost like undress it and then add more different clothes. Doll glamour is endgame.
Oh my gosh.
Doll glamour.
I think if my friend Panda messaged me today and said, "Hey, can you make me new clothes?" I would just say no.
Oh no.
No, I mean, you couldn't change his hat because the hat is actually sewn in.
Ah, okay.
But the rest of it, you could absolutely change his clothes if you really wanted to.
That's adorable though. It's really, and I like the little R2D2 in here.
I love the R2D2. That one was so fun. So the fun fact about that R2D2, the legs on the side, they're attached with safety eyes instead of being sewn on, so they actually move.
Oh wow, really?
It's fantastic. Yes.
You can rotate them.
Mm-hmm.
That's excellent. Oh, that's really cool that you can do that.
Yeah, well, I can't even take credit for that. That was definitely part of the pattern, but yeah, I was like, that is so cool. I'm sitting here playing with the legs, and my husband's like, okay, you're right there.
You don't understand. This is so cool.
I was like, but his legs, there's no legs. No.
Has this?
He's like, no, I get it.
Has this like inspired you to like expand, like make your own like designs to like in this kind of manner, like you know?
It really has. So a lot of the work that I've been doing lately has been custom dolls for other people. And what I've done is I've actually taken like the pattern that I use for those. The base pattern is actually like the Luke Skywalker doll pattern in the Star Wars crochet book. But like I'm literally just using the pattern as far as like so I know how to make the head and how to make the body and how many rows. But then I will take that and kind of manipulate it a little bit to suit my own needs. I'm working on a doll right now that it's Mont Blanc, the Moogle from Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced. And I basically started out with the Luke Skywalker pattern for the head and like the first half of the body. And then I've just kind of went off pattern and I'm writing out the rest of it now so that if I ever have to make another one, I know exactly what to do.
That's great though. I mean, where you can just like add your own twist to things and like edit a pattern to suit what you needed to do. That's really fun.
Yeah, it has. It's been really it's been really interesting. I've definitely in doing the custom dolls I've learned a lot about crocheting shapes that I never thought I would get. I always thought like when I first started I always thought I'll always need a pattern. I'll always need a pattern. Now it's like, well, not really. I just need to remember how to make this basic shape.
Oh, 1 minute.
And then I think about crochet. If you don't like the shape, you just rip the tail out, and it's fine. It just the yarn comes unraveled, and you start over.
Ah, yeah.
It's not like cross stitch where you're like, crap, I'm 600 stitches into this, and I've screwed it up.
Oh, so it's
and
crochet.
It's going to take me a million years to undo it.
Is crochet a bit forgiving? Is it if you make a mistake?
It is. Depending on how the mistake is, you can either add or subtract stitches on the next row to fix it, or if you're not that far in, you can literally just unravel the whole thing and start over. And unraveling it is kind of, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of satisfying.
Oh.
It is, just to kind of watch like the rows just go down and down and down.
Yeah.
It's a little satisfying.
I can imagine like you know, in the cartoons, there's things like Tom and Jerry when like there's like a bit of like a string sticking out of the clothing, and then you pull it and it goes.
Yes, it is exactly like that. Like that's the sound that plays in my head when I'm unraveling a washcloth when I miss a stitch somewhere.
That's excellent. Good. I'm glad someone else does sound effects in that.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna ask too, because you mentioned like you felt fantastic that you could do this like instead of going into different like an area of work. But what is like work-life balance like when you try to do craft for a living?
That is actually very difficult, especially if you have a lot on your plate that needs to get out the door. I find that pretty much if I'm at home and I'm not busy doing something else, I have yarn and hook in my hand.
Yeah.
All the time. I actually I did take a bit of a break over the holidays just because there was family stuff and it just the holidays are a stressful time for us because we've got, you know, my family, my husband's family, and it's just there's so much going on that I just kind of take like 2 or 3 weeks off, and I didn't crochet for 2 or 3 weeks. And when I got back into it, that was really difficult for me to kind of get my, you know, my fingers back into shape and everything. And so now it's to where I actually keep a hook and a ball of cotton yarn in my purse and crochet dishcloths anytime I have to wait somewhere.
Yeah.
Because it keeps my fingers nimble. And so even if I'm not working on a project, I'm still working with crochet.
Oh,
so the work-life balance is a little non-existent.
I see. That's like the nature of freelance, isn't it? I mean, you have to like feel like you can't really take a break because there's something you could be doing, and like it's hard to get out of that habit. But you mentioned like you have to keep your fingers nibble. Is like, do you have to like exercise your hands? I've really no idea when it comes to crochet and stuff. Do you have to like do special like exercises? Because I know like for drawing, for example, there's like stretches you must do because there is like a common like injury that illustrators can get with their forearms, like the tendons and stuff in their forearms tend to lock up. Hello?
Sorry, I think my internet hiccuped again.
Oh no!
I think we're good now.
No, what was the last thing you heard?
I'm actually listening to the stream. Also, you asked if there were special exercises that I do for my hands.
Yes, because you mentioned you have to keep your fingers nimble, or because there is a common injury for illustrators with involving their forearms. Is it cutting out again? Oh no! Please bear with me.
Started crocheting. I used to crochet very tightly.
Oh.
And so it's one of those, if I take time away from crochet and then I come back to it, my stitches tighten back up again. And so I just have to get my fingers back used to keeping the tension, but not keeping the tension, if that makes sense.
I see.
So I tried it. I do a very basic dishcloth that, so anytime I'm waiting, that it's a combination of single and half double crochets. So it just keeps my fingers going, but like I'm always in practice doing just basic stitches to keep my tension from just going completely wonky.
Oh, I see. So it's more like making sure like the stitches are even.
Yeah. It's part of that, but it's also part of keeping my fingers from getting too tight.
Ah, gotcha.
Or like pulling the yarn too tight.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see. Oh, actually, I think it's a good time to ask chat if they've got any questions to ask Dio.
Henry.
Hi, Henry. Hello. So if you got questions, just type them in chat and I'll read them out. And I'll do some elevator music. So while we're waiting, is there like anything you'd go back and if you had a time machine? Is there anything you would like go back in time to like tell yourself or do differently?
If I could go back in time and tell myself anything differently, I would probably have told myself not to give up on crochet so quickly when I first tried to learn.
Oh.
The most important lesson that I learned the second time I tried to learn, when Morg taught me, was don't expect your first row of stitches to be pretty. No matter how experienced in crochet you are, your first row of crochets is gonna be horrible. It's not gonna be pretty. The chain is never pretty like you think it's gonna be. And that's okay. And when you're learning, it's definitely not gonna be pretty. I was expecting it to be like pretty and look just like the person on the video, and yeah, that's not how it works in real life.
So persevere. Persevere.
Yes. And to always trust your patterns no matter what. Trust the pattern maker, and then when you're done with the pattern, if it still isn't right, then go, oh no, this pattern sucks.
Persevere, be patient.
Yes.
Oh, Asha has a Asha. She says, Dio, question. You're awesome. That's a Asher is adorable. She always comes into the stream and says this kind of thing. But yeah, if you got questions to ask, please fire away. Like anything about crocheting or any like help things. Oh, here you go. Henry asks, how much polyfill is too much polyfill?
5 pounds of polyfill is too much polyfill.
Oh.
10 pounds of polyfill is way too much polyfill. I had no idea, and I saw a deal on Amazon for a 10-pound box of polyfill, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. A 10-pound box of polyfill is like 3 feet high by 2.5 feet wide. It's huge. I will never have to buy polyfill ever again.
Oh gosh, I feel there's a story behind this. Could you share?
What? It's one of those. I got tired of having to buy like the bags of polyfill like at Walmart or a local craft store, because like I would always run out at like 3 a.m. when all the stores are closed. And then I was looking up supplies on Amazon one day, and it was like, oh, that's a good price for 10 pounds of polyfill, right? 10 pounds of polyfill is a lot. You don't think about how much 10 pounds of polyfill is until the box is sitting in your room and you're like,
no.
That's as tall as my nephew and he's 3.5.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
So what will you use this extra polyfill for?
Well, that's why I started making all of the dolls to sell on Etsy, because I had to do something with the polyfill. So little by little, we are using it. I think I might have used a quarter of the box by now, but that's still
a lot.
I think it's still a long way to go.
If you could estimate time, how long would it take?
Oh, let's see. I make probably 4 dolls a month. Oh man, if I keep, Lucy gives the kid, no, the cat do not sleep in that silver. It's going to be many years. Many years. Years. It might even take me 10 years to use that all.
Oh wow.
It's going to take a long time.
You've had your fill of polyfill. Okay, let's see now. I kind of already asked this already. It's kind of repeating. So I mean, Final Fantasy 14 aside, what other like games or communities have influenced or affected your stream, like with crafting and stuff?
As far as what has affected my stream, I don't really. A lot of the stuff that I do as far as crafting goes, if it's not Final Fantasy related, I've done a lot of Star Wars stuff.
Oh.
Just because I'm kind of obsessed with Star Wars. It's one of my favorite, like, film series of all time. So, when I found Little Blue Box, who runs Naughty by Nature, the stream team that I'm on, her thing is Ewoks. All of her subs get an Ewok or Jawa at their 6-month mark when they've subbed to you. When you've subbed to her for 6 months, she says, pick an Ewok or pick a Jawa, tell me what colors you want them to be, and I'll customize it for you.
Yeah.
And that's how I found out about the Star Wars crochet book. Well, then I found out that the woman who wrote the Star Wars crochet book wrote a second Star Wars crochet book, and I own them both. And I'm obsessed with both of them. They're amazing.
What's your favorite pattern from them?
My very favorite pattern from them so far is Yoda.
Oh.
He's just so cute, and he comes together so quickly, and he's so tiny. It's adorable.
A tiny Yoda.
Like, if you do it to size, he maybe stands 3.5 inches tall. It's like the cutest little tiny Yoda ever.
Oh. Is it like? Oh,
and I just love him.
You love. Oh, Henry has this Yoda, does he?
Yes, Henry can confirm he has the Yoda,
and he loves this Yoda. Oh, that's excellent. Oh, that's good. That's good. So, like, So Yoda is the favorite from that pattern book. But what about like the overall, like the everything you've made? What is your favorite?
That actually changes from week to week, honestly.
Okay.
Right now, the most favorite thing that I have made so far is actually a tie between the one that I'm working on right now, the Mont Blanc, because this is the first time I've ever pretty much made up the bulk of him. Like, I really have enjoyed that, but the other favorite thing that I've ever done is probably there's a couple, because I also really liked the dolls that I did for Banner Saga. I did some character dolls for them when they were promoting their game. I got in touch with them through a friend of mine. But then I also did a custom chibi for Henry, and I absolutely adored it. It was his so the in the pictures you're showing now, the blonde doll with the white and blue dress, that's actually a character from Banner Saga. That was one of my most favorite things I've ever done.
I do like her hair.
Booties,
yeah,
the little booties are fun too. That was a fun project.
Yeah. Is this like because this is PUBG? Is a baby PUBG?
Yeah. So
oh,
a friend of mine used to actually work for PUBG, and she had commissioned me to do that for her coworker who was pregnant. And it was one of those, I couldn't post pictures of it or anything until after it was done and the gift was given.
Yes, I understand.
Because she wanted it to be a surprise.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those, once she posted it on social media, then it was like, okay, I can share this with my community. Because like I wasn't even allowed to make it on stream. We were keeping it super secret. And so it's one of those, like when it came out, I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. I'm so glad that, she got it and she loved it. And like after that, I still didn't tell like a whole lot of people that I did it because, That's so cute. It was one of those. It was fun, but it was kind of a challenge. And
tiny baby booties.
Yes, those baby booties were so fun to make.
How difficult were they? Like, did you have to get measurements, or did you set size?
I used a pattern that was supposed to be set for an infant. I will say, I think the hat is probably a bit big for an infant, but it's one of those, like, I went back and I read the pattern several times, and I was like, I think these are going to be too big for an infant. But the pattern says use this hook size, and like I used the smallest measurement, and okay. So I have a feeling that that's probably going to be a little bit big for when the baby was born, but I feel like gives you something to grow into.
Really,
because kids grow so fast. They really do.
They really. My son grew so fast. Like I don't think he's even like worn everything he had as a newborn. Maybe like once. And they just shoot up. It's amazing. I don't know how they do. Like you blink and they're bigger.
Yes.
Okay. Well, now we talk about your favorite ones. Now, but what about your least favorite? Like, if you could like go back and redo something or find a different way to do it.
I think probably if I could if I could do it again and find a different way to do it. I bought a series of patterns from My Little Pony from a creator on Ravelry.
Yes.
And the patterns are excellent, but it's one of those, I don't want to say I wasn't as good of a crochet artist, because that makes it sound, to me that sounds a little conceited, like I'm so good now. But I don't think my stitching wasn't nearly as tight, or it wasn't as, there are a lot of things that I've improved upon since I've made some of those. I had tried to make oh my God, I can't remember her name right now. Anyway, it's Applejack's little sister from My Little Pony.
Okay.
Friendship is Back.
Yeah.
Apple Bloom. That's who it is. I got through, I made the body, I made the tail, and when I attached the tail, the tail is really heavy. I don't know if it's because I overfilled it or what, but there are definitely some things that I would love to go back and redo that. I don't know if I have the patience for that pattern these days, because it is quite big and quite involved.
Is there anything you'd like to try though? Like
I would really like to learn tatting.
What's that?
Tatting is lace making.
Oh.
And it's one of those, we have a couple of people on Naughty by Nature that do it, and I watch it, and I'm like, that is amazing. I'm so scared to try it, though.
Like, oh, I have no idea how to even start that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't either. It intimidates the heck out of me, but I think it would be so amazing to try it. And to answer your question, Doshelle, without the mark.
Oh, there's the apple bloom.
Yeah, she I guess has gotten her cutie mark since that pattern came out.
Okay. Do you get like very specific like requests and whatnot?
I do. A lot of the requests that I get are definitely for very specific things, like the Mont Blanc. He was like, oh, I want a Moogle. And I'm like, cool, I've got lots of Moogle patterns. He goes, no, I want this Moogle. And it's like, oh, that Moogle. That is very specific. Okay. Because he is not like any Moogle I've ever seen before. And he's actually brown with like big rabbit ears. And he's very different. And he's clothed. But he's so cute. And I'm super excited.
Yeah, I dropped by your stream like that the other day as well. And I saw some of the progress on him. It's very, very cute so far.
Thanks.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the finished one.
Oh, I can't either. I think I just have to give him his little Moogle palm and his hair, and he will be done. I need to fluff out the ears.
Oh, a little tufts on the end.
Done. Yes.
Adorable. Yeah, I like Moogles a lot. Have you ever done like other creatures from Final Fantasy, like Fat Chocobo?
I actually have done, I've done 2 different Moogles now.
Okay.
I've done, well, technically 3 with the one I'm working on now, but then I also have a pattern for a Fat Chocobo chick that I actually did, and he turned out super cute. I have a pattern to do a carbuncle that I want to get started with once I have a list of dolls that I need to make and get sent out, but then I will probably do the carbuncle next because he's adorable and I love carbuncles. I have a pattern for all of the different mandragoras.
Oh, mandragoras, yeah.
I'm excited to do those. I mostly want to do the Mandragora Queen because I love her. She's adorable.
She is, yeah. They have a good set.
A friend of mine that did the design. Oh, and I've done a Tomberry. I have done a Tomberry. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I've actually done several Tomberries. I want to adapt Yoda into making like miniature Tomberries. Because if you don't put his ears on, that's what he looks like. And it's so cute.
Oh, yeah. That'd be great. A little army of them with little stabby knives.
Yes.
Henry says, need to do more cactuar for the Empire. Oh,
I need to find a good cactuar pattern, Henry. That is the one thing. I want to learn how to make like bendy shapes in yarn without having to like put wire in them. I know it can be done because Morg did a giveaway when she did a cactuar on stream, and I won it in the cactuar sitting downstairs because my cats kidnapped it. So I know it's possible. It's a thing that can be done. I just don't know how to do it yet.
Kitty cats. Do they hide? Yeah. Do they hide? I know cats like to hide things.
Yes. So when I first started learning how to crochet, the first thing I ever crocheted out of the Star Wars book was actually a stormtrooper.
Oh.
And my cats totally stole it. And I have pictures of Kupo when he was a baby snuggling with this little stormtrooper.
Oh.
It was kind of adorable.
Cactus would cost you entirely too many sewing needles. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. So, speaking of needles, what kind of tools do you need?
To get started in crocheting, you really just need a crochet hook and a big yarn needle. It doesn't even have to be anything fancy. As far as the yarn needles go, you can buy pretty basic giant plastic yarn needles at the craft store, and they're usually in the same aisle as the crochet hooks. So it's not really that expensive to get started with crochet. What I use versus what you need to get started, because I have a fancy set of ergonomic hooks with the rubber handles on them. My very first set of crochet hooks was just an aluminum set of hooks, and you can buy individual hooks for a couple of bucks.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, so it's really not that expensive to get into crochet to start with. And when I first started, like, I didn't have stitch markers or anything. I was literally, when Morg taught me, she was like, before you go out and buy all this stuff, you just need a big needle with a big eye in it that will fit yarn in through the eye, and a crochet hook. You can use a different colored yarn from what you're crocheting with to be your stitch marker. And that's what I did when I first started. And it worked like a charm. So, but once I decided I was hooked, then I went and bought like a set of
I see what you did there. Croquet.
Yeah.
Ah, that's good. Because knitting is very different from, like, what makes it different from knitting?
Well, with knitting, you use two knitting needles, and the way my friend Silver describes it is it's just tying knots in a different way.
Okay.
I used to be able to knit, but I haven't done it in so long that I don't even remember how to do it. And so I tease him all the time that I want him to teach me how to knit. So one day I will get back into it eventually, maybe, possibly.
You can make some clothes for your dolls.
Yeah.
Alright, now, you mentioned your kitty cats. I'm going to ask you questions about these, because cats are adorable. Yeah, so, like, I know you got, like, a cat, well, kind of a cat cam. They kind of just barge in, don't they?
Yeah, they make their own cat cam.
Yeah, that's so good. Oh, actually, you got clips that you gave me. Let's have a look, shall we? Alright, cool. There you go. Can you see this? Alright, I should be seeing I'm back, let's talk Seattle, do crafty things clip with the cat on your lap. Is that on screen now? I think so. Ta-da. So we're gonna play this muted, but let's have a look. So please describe this cat just appearing there, just snuggled.
So this is Cecil's favorite thing to do, and when I first started streaming in the studio, literally as soon as I would turn the camera on, he is up on the desk, laying across the entire work surface, just demanding snuggles. Aww. And that's just what he does.
So I think you have to, like, take a break from
we pretty much just put up with it, and you know, the stream says hi to the you're right, Henry, he is the real star of the stream.
The real star. Oh, they're so fluffy.
We just put up with his floof and his demand for attention, because it usually doesn't last long, maybe 5-10 minutes. Now, if it's getting towards the end of the stream and I've been streaming for a while, I'll end the stream there sometimes. But most of the time, he just plops down, decides he wants to be the center of attention for 5 or 10 minutes, and then something else in the house will draw his attention, and he's over it, and he's ready to move on. Some days I don't get that lucky. Some days he's just like, nope, I am not moving. And those are the days that we usually end the stream whenever Cecil decides to take over.
Oh. It's so nice to hear the purring and stuff. Yeah. And here's the other star of the show.
Oh, yes.
Do they, like, try to play with the arm you, like, that you're working with? Cause I know,
Cecil definitely does.
Yeah.
And what's funny about Cecil is he thinks that he's being sneaky. Like, he will literally climb up on my desk and, like, stalk up to the yarn and, like, just grab the tail end of it and then try to run off. And I'm like, I can see you. You do understand. I can totally see you.
Yay, derp kitty emote, yay.
Yes, that is. So yeah, what they're seeing now is Kupo, and he is my derpiest of kitties.
Yeah.
He does not make an appearance too often on stream.
Yeah.
Like this and like Friday, I'm sorry. This day and Friday were like one of the few times that he's just like laid down in front of the camera and just like, okay, I'm here. Other times you'll just like catch a glimpse of his tail as he's walking past, trying to sneak around me to get at whatever else is on my desk that he's after. That Kupo's our handsome boy.
Yeah. Your very pretty eyes. I mean, both the cats are very cute. What's the story behind them? Like, when did you get them, and
So
when did they
we
become
got
part of the
them-
family?
We got them when they turned 8 weeks old. My cousin, her cat, she adopted a cat that she did not know was pregnant when they found her, and they took her in, and then 2 months later she had kittens, and they were like, all right then. So she called me after they were born and said, so you and your husband, you guys want a kitten, right? And I'm like, we want, yes, eventually. And she's like, well, I have like 10 kittens. Do you want like 2 of them? And I'm like, maybe. And after talking, we did decide we would take 2 of them. And yeah, we went and met them at 8 weeks, and we brought them home.
Oh, that's nice.
And they literally have never been separated. The most they've ever been separated was our first trip to Vegas after we got them.
Yes.
It was, I think it was like around their 6-month mark. We dropped them off at the vet, and I asked them, I was like, is there any way, because they were still a little wee tiny, and I was like, is there any way that they can stay in the same kennel? And they said no, because typically what happens is cats pick up scents from other cats and just from being in the vet's office, and they end up fighting, and it's just not safe for them. So, and I was like, well, can you put them in kennels next to each other? And apparently over the course of the first day or two, they were reaching through the bars of the kennel, like playing with each other.
Aww.
And so during the day when the staff was there, because it was a slow week, they ended up opening up one of the rooms, and just like putting all kinds of toys and stuff in there, and that was like their private play area for like the whole week that we were out of town.
Oh, that's great to hear though, the vet's kid, and took notice of that they wanted to play.
Well, and the funny thing is the vet was like, well, it doesn't matter how good of friends are. I'm like, I don't think you understand. They're brothers. They've never been separated ever. So trust me, that's not going to be a thing. And she was like, I couldn't believe it. That's just not a thing.
That vet learns something that day. Oh, that's great though. That's really sweet. So so they do like try to like nab a few things and snuggle, and have you ever actually like crocheted them, like those two?
I have not.
I wonder what they'd think, like mini versions of themselves.
Yeah. I imagine it'd be very. If I did small versions of them, I imagine it'd be like anything else small that I did. They would eventually steal it and claim it as their own.
Oh,
because that is definitely a thing that happens. When they first started to be big enough to climb up on the desks and like steal things, like everything that I had made up to that point went over to my husband's desk, because I had done a Yoshi and a Super Mario Brother head and a couple of other like nerdy kind of crochet things.
Yeah.
And every single one of those now lives in the toy box downstairs with all their toys.
Oh.
Because they have just picked them up and carried them off, and it's like, oh, I guess that's yours now. Okay.
What's the funniest place you found like hidden crochets in?
I think probably the funniest place. I think the first time I ever found like I made an owl that's probably about half the size of them, and Kupo has like watching him pick that up and just take it around, because this was like before he was a year old, so he wasn't as big as he is now.
Yeah.
And so like just watching him pick up something like that's almost as big as him and carry it around, that's probably the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Oh,
I'm just like, that's as big as you.
I just imagine like his head is up, like trying to arch it above the ground, going doo doo doo.
Yes.
That's lovely. Okay, let me switch back to. That's good. All right. Let's close these. And okay. I think we should wrap up now. I think now you mentioned a few tips throughout the show here and there, but is there any like definitive like tips or advice you would give to people trying to start out? Like any very important things that you think that people should know?
The biggest thing that I always tell people when they say I've been thinking about streaming, the biggest thing I always tell them is do it. Don't think about it, just do it. It can be one of the most rewarding things you'll ever do. Even if you don't do it full time and it's not your job, if you do it and you love it, do it, because I have met some of the most amazing people because of Twitch. Some of my best friends that I consider family now are people that I have met through Twitch. And I would have never known them if I hadn't stumbled across, if I hadn't stumbled across the 14 community on Twitch, I never would have met Pukajutsu. I never would have met the mod team there. I never would have met half the friends that I'm friends with now. And I just can't imagine my life without these people now. So the most important advice I can give is, you thinking about streaming? Do it. You don't need anything. You don't need expensive equipment. You don't even need a camera. Just do it. OBS is free.
It is. And you'll have the greatest thing of all, which is friendship.
Yes. And if it turns into a career, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But don't do it for the money.
No.
Because there's no money. You will spend more money on things to make your stream better than you will ever just do it for the love of doing it. And the second you stop loving it is the second you should take a step back and go, okay, let's reevaluate and decide, why am I doing this? Because people will know that you're not into it anymore.
Yeah, there is a worry where if you think about like how much views you're getting and how much money you're making, it becomes very not enjoyable. Yeah, that's very good advice. Oh, hello. Dijel says, don't even need an overlay. Be like you and go entirely minimalist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And that's when I first started streaming. I was literally just me and the game and a picture to cover up the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with this. Like, if you do enjoy it, if you like want to just try, even just do it. I mean, even I the same. When it comes to streaming games, I always get the feeling it's like, well, at first it's like the old days when you're at home with your mates and you're playing a game with them. It's very similar to that, I felt at the beginning. That was very enjoyable.
It did. It totally reminded me of just sitting on the couch watching my brother play Zelda. Because I didn't have the patience to play any of those games, but I could sit and watch somebody play them. And so, like, having a place like that on the internet now as a grown-up is just really cool.
It really is. It's like definitely with work life and stuff. It helps to be able to just tune in and have that feeling.
Yes.
All right.
It makes the world feel a lot smaller.
It does. Really, the social media, like, I'll just talk to you tomorrow, and then it's like this. You're saying this to a person on the other side of the world.
Exactly. Like one of my best friends lives in Scotland. I would have never met him if it hadn't been for Twitch.
It's amazing, isn't it? Okay, now, so what plans do you have in regards to crocheting or crafting, and streaming in the future? And is there any plans to expand, or?
My big plans right now are just to kind of try to keep it going steady. I've finally found a schedule that kind of works for me. And so my goal really is just to kind of keep it going and just kind of, just to kind of keep getting better every day. And that's the main thing. Keep trying to keep things, to keep it fresh and not to get boring.
Yeah. I mean, especially with like your interest coming in as well. I'm sure you seem to have made very good friends. Like, they're in the chat here, and they keep it interesting. Thank you very much for stopping by, by the way, guys and gals. And so is there any shout outs you'd like to do?
There are 4 people on Twitch specifically. Yes. That obviously is Pukajutsu, because without Pukajutsu I wouldn't be anywhere on Twitch, because he's what kept me coming back.
Yeah, he's a legend, that guy.
But I would also like to shout out Void Forever and Morg Fu. Void is a really amazing guy. He's a variety streamer, but he's a lot of fun. And he's actually the one who introduced me to Morg, and Morg is the one who taught me how to crochet, and I adore her. So
yeah. Well,
and then and then the very last person is Silver Outcast. He's my very best friend in the whole wide world, and he doesn't stream anymore, but that's hopefully going to be a thing that's coming back because reasons. And we need Silver streams in our life. He's amazing.
That's lovely.
And he keeps me from losing my mind some days, most days.
Yeah, if you give me like their links at Discord later, I'll make sure to put them in the description of the video. Yeah, we must do that. That'd be excellent. Void stamina ... You're totally clipping that and sending it to your Silver.
Stamina.
Yeah, it's mysterious.
Now you're
clipping it. Oh, there you go.
I'm pretty sure. Well, I don't know if he is still here, but he was lurking. So.
Oh.
And he already knows this dojo.
Oh. I love how close you people are. This is so sweet. It's a wholesome. Lovely, lovely. Okay, well, thank you so much for being a guest on my on my Discord's well, your Discord's too. I'm talking rubbish now. Hey Sib, hello.
Yes, thank you for having
thank you
me.
very
It's
much.
fun.
Yeah, it's very, very sweet conversation, and I learned a lot as well about crocheting. Like I actually have like zero knowledge of this side of Twitch as well. Oh, he's here. Here he is. He's there. The man is like Sly, so he doesn't feel with himself appear.
Yes.
We're gonna have words now. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I'll give you a chance to run.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's say goodbyes. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Let's see if this is. There you go. Okay, well, thank you very much for stopping by and for the entertaining chat. Thank you. And I hope you enjoyed it. Yep, and for those in the stream chat, thank you very much. I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube at a later date, hopefully in a few days. Shouldn't be that long though in the future. And I'll be, as I mentioned, I'll be putting all the links and stuff into the description in that video. So please, when the time comes, have a look at the shout out links and whatnot, and also check out Dio on her YouTube channel and Twitter. Can I actually do this? I can do the shout out in chat now. This is my music for shouting out. There you go. Hey. Yay! There you go. Check her out there. And that's it for tonight. Next member spotlight will be around the same time next month. So please look forward to that and keep an eye out on the Discord information. You can actually find a link to the Discord in the channel information below this Twitch stream. So just have a look down in the panels below. And have a good night or good day or good afternoon or whatever time it is your side of the world. And please take care. And I shall see you next time. Bye.